For people who don't know your story, you rose through the ranks of the fashion and beauty industry to become the youngest and only the second Black editor-in-chief in Condé Nast's 107-year history when you took over Teen Vogue, which is mind-boggling to me. But growing up, you said you didn't see people in magazines that looked like you, which I can absolutely relate to. Tell us about how that experience impacted you, because I remember looking through magazines and
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. My very first memory in life actually relates back to this, and it's one of the first stories I tell in my book. I remember being in preschool and being assigned a family collage. We were all sitting around looking at a heap of magazines, and we were to cut out people who looked like our family. So I remember flipping through the pages and not seeing anybody that looked like me or my family. So I decided to make what I call my white paper family. I cut out all white people, because that's what everyone else was doing. And you can imagine that my mom was not very happy about that. So when I came home, she sat me down at the dinner table. She called my brother over, and she's like, we're going to redo this assignment. She pulled in Ebony and Essence magazines, and we did the assignment together. I got to keep my white dad. I had to swap, you see him up there. I had to swap out everyone else, and my mom made me, she made me tape it up next to my wall, next to my bed, on my wall next to my bed, as a reminder of who I am. It was the first thing I saw every morning, the last thing I saw every night, and it was there to instill pride in who I am. So when I, years later, got the opportunity to be a magazine editor and to dictate what happens and what goes in those pages, it was critical for me to make sure that those pages reflected the real world and centered, young Black girls that look like me and people who have been marginalized in media for too long.
And it changed the magazine, and thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
You and I had a chance to sit down before. By the way, you look like a beautiful scoop of sorbet today.
Thank
You're so
you.
gorgeous.
Well, she looks like a fashion plate.
Well,
About that. So good.
Mutual Admiration Society. So you and I had a chance to meet each other because I interviewed you at Teen Vogue years ago. We talked about this journey of yours. And of course, we've seen the pages, as Sunny was saying, we've seen the pages of the magazines changing over the years, but behind the scenes still was sort of a little bit of a battle, right? You didn't see a whole lot of people like you behind the scenes.
Unfortunately not. And I think, we've made a lot of progress when it comes to representation in terms of the people we see on the covers of magazines, people we see in campaigns, but where we need to push for progress is behind the scenes, because you can't authentically change the stories unless you change the storytellers. And what I found as one of few or one of the only, people of color or Black people at a magazine is that sometimes I would get mistaken for the only other Black girl when we looked nothing alike. And it was just like, and I think it just goes to show that there aren't enough of us behind the scenes, and we really need to work to change that.
Well, before we go, can we talk about Project Runway?
Oh, so good.
It got a huge revamp, obviously, and you're one of the judges. I love this show, and I grew up watching it, or it was on when I was in college, so I was in my formative years. But what's it like being on this iconic show, and it's made such a huge comeback?
Oh my gosh, thank you. Who watches the show? The finale is on this week, actually, and it's just been so much fun to work alongside people that I've admired in the industry for so long. And it kind of doesn't feel like work. We forget the cameras are there, and it feels like a natural extension of the work I was doing at Teen Vogue in terms of nurturing, the next generation of talent, and it's just been so fun.